As I stood at the entrance of the amusement park, I could feel the excitement bubbling inside me. The vibrant colors flashed all around, and the joyful sounds of laughter filled the air, making it impossible not to smile. My parents had poured years into this place, spending countless hours programming and developing robots for the rides and attractions. But today was something special. I was finally old enough to drop by during their work shift, and I could barely contain my eagerness to see what they had been up to. Walking through the park gates, the sweet smell of cotton candy and popcorn wrapped around me, instantly transporting me back to my childhood. Bright posters advertising the latest rides caught my attention, but my heart raced at the thought of seeing my parents' creations up close. I'd always had this fascination with technology, and the robots my parents built were no exception. Weaving through the bustling crowd, admiring the various attractions, I finally made my way to the robotics center. I swung open the door and was met with a chaotic scene. Wires everywhere, screens blinking, and half-assembled robots scattered about. I headed straight for the central area, where I knew Mom and Dad would be. And they were there, both intensely focused on a small, humanoid robot, tweaking its limbs while its body lay on the table. "Hey, Mom, Dad," I came out, trying to grab their attention. My voice barely broke through the whirring of their machines and the sound of saws cutting, but I was sure they'd heard me. I shouted their name again, and this time they paused and looked up, turning around, their faces lighting with smiles that chased away their fatigue. Mom had her hair in a messy bun, wiping her eyes on her work apron as she came over to give me a warm hug. Dad adjusted his glasses and followed Mom, affectionately ruffling my hair. "Robbie, we're so glad you could come. We've been working on something special, a robot to help guests navigate the amusement park," Mom explained. Pointing to the robot they were assembling, I could see how much effort they'd put into it. "It's not quite going as we'd hoped. We might have to send it to the robot graveyard," Dad said, his frustration evident. Mom and Dad started to debate. One thought the robot graveyard was a terrible idea, while the other was convinced it was the best solution. Just then, the door swung open, and I called out to my parents, who immediately stopped their arguing. I instinctively covered my eyes, bracing myself for whatever was to come next. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I scare you three?" a concerned voice asked. I lowered my hands and saw a woman with thick black hair in a worker's uniform standing there, nervously smiling at us. It was clear she felt awkward about interrupting. "I thought you were some sort of rogue robot," I joked. "I truly apologize for the scare. I'm not a rogue robot, just someone who works here," the woman replied. "Linda, we specifically told you to knock before entering the robotics center. You startled us," Dad said, sounding annoyed. "Sir, I'm really sorry. I forgot about the knocking rule. But who is this?" Linda asked, her gaze landing on me, clearly not having met me before. "Oh, this is our son, Robert. He's visiting us for a few days," Mom said, beaming with pride. "It's nice to meet you, Robert," Linda said, extending her hand for a handshake. I took it, letting her know she could call me Robbie if she wanted. "Is there something you needed?" "My wife and I are pretty busy," Dad asked. "Well, Mr. and Mrs. Sanders, one of the main cameras in the security office malfunctioned, and I was sent to get one of you to figure it out," Linda exclaimed. "Oh, come on. I'm sorry about this, Julie. You stay here and fix that robot part. And Robert, you stick with your mom. I guess we can't give you the grand tour of the amusement park like we planned. You'll just have to wait here for a bit," Dad said. Patting my shoulder and kissing Mom on the cheek, he rushed off out of the robotics center to fix the broken camera. Mom and Dad didn't just create and repair the amusement park robots. They also helped out whenever something else broke down or malfunctioned. I let out a soft sigh and closed my arms, noticing that Linda was still there with me. She cleared her throat, catching my attention. I could give you a tour of the amusement park. I've worked here for 10 years, and I'm sure your parents won't mind. Trust me, I know this place like the back of my hand, Linda said. I guess, if Mom is okay with that, I replied, glancing over at her. Well, your dad and I did promise you a tour, but I want you to listen to Linda and be on your best behavior. If your father comes back before you return, I'll let him know you're with her, Mom said. Linda announced that the tour was starting, and I followed her out of the robotics center as she began to share the history of the robots. My parents had already told me about the history of the robots they built, but I didn't mind hearing it again from someone else. Once we stepped into the main area of the amusement park, Linda pointed out various attractions and rides, giving me a little backstory on each. Suddenly, I stopped in my tracks, noticing a massive dome-shaped building all by itself. It looked so old that I felt like it could topple over if someone kicked it. Hey, what's that, Linda? I asked, pointing at the building. Linda's face went pale as she turned to see what I was pointing at. Oh, no, that's the robot graveyard. Nobody's allowed in there. Not even you, okay? She said, her voice serious. I chuckled, thinking she was joking. I'd heard about the robot graveyard, a forbidden area that was off limits. The graveyard was said to be on the outskirts of the park, filled with all the malfunctioning robots my parents had worked on. People often said it was the graveyard of once great machines, and it intrigued me endlessly because I wondered what secrets lay beyond those rusty doors. Seriously, you really shouldn't go in there. Your parents have heard about, strange things happening in that building. So just stay away, Linda added, her tone now more urgent. Yeah, I'm not scared of some old junk robots, I shrugged off her warning. Look, I know you're old enough to take care of yourself, but just be careful and remember what your parents said. Listen to me. Plus, you're going to be here all day, and if you want excitement, there's plenty to see, Linda said, trying to convince me. I nodded, but my mind was already wandering. I couldn't shake the allure of the robot graveyard. I wanted to see it for myself, to explore the forgotten remnants of my parents' creations. A couple of hours after exploring all the rides and attractions, my curiosity got the best of me. I felt compelled to check out the robot graveyard. I told Linda I needed to hit the restroom, and she said she'd hang out by the snack stand while I took a quick dash. But as I started walking, I had a change of heart. The sound of laughter and rides began to fade, replaced by the heavy silence that settled around me. Without saying a word, I quickly made my way to the robot graveyard, glancing around nervously to ensure that no one, especially Linda, was watching. Once I was sure the coast was clear, I reached for the doorknob, half expecting it to be locked. To my surprise, it creaked open, startling me. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, I thought, a wave of anxiety washing over me. But my anxiety about what lay inside pushed me forward, and without a second thought, I stepped into the robot graveyard, only to find it cloaked in complete darkness. I fumbled around, searching for something to light the way. As I brushed my hand against the wall, I flipped a switch that surprisingly turned on the lights. Why would the lights even work in a place like this, if my parents hardly ever come here? I asked myself. The robot graveyard sprawled before me, a flat expanse littered with robot parts and half-buried machines. Even with the lights on, the room felt heavy as I stepped inside, sending a chill up my spine. I walked past heaps of components, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. The remnants of robots lay scattered, some still intact, their once bright eyes now dull. Others were just twisted metal shells, and I felt like an intruder in a forsaken place. Yet, a thrill of excitement surged within me. Suddenly, I stumbled upon a large, collapsed structure that seemed to have once housed a gigantic robot. Its shadow loomed over me, pulling me in with its irresistible allure. Unable to resist, I stepped through the crumbling doorway, my breath hitching in my throat. Inside, the air was thick with dust and a faint scent of oil. Dim light seeped through the cracks in the walls, casting an eerie glow on the scattered machinery and tools strewn across the floor. I moved cautiously, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the stillness. As I ventured deeper, an odd sensation enveloped me, a creeping unease that I was not alone. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I spun around, expecting to find someone behind me. But there was nothing, just the heavy silence of the graveyard. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath me, and I stumbled, grabbing onto a nearby wall for support. A low humming filled the air, sending another chill racing down my spine. I turned to escape, but the doorway I had entered through was now a solid wall of rusted metal. Panic surged through me as I realized I was trapped. I frantically searched for another way out, but the walls felt like they were closing in on me. The humming grew louder, and I could hear whispers drifting through the darkness. Unclear, yet filled with a chilling urgency. As I moved around, I spotted numerous robot parts scattered about. Arms, legs, even a head, all still silent and unblinking. While I was trying to navigate, something coiled around my ankle. I looked down to see a robot's upper half gripping me. It had no legs, but its head was intact, and I could see concern in its eyes, an expression only a robot could convey. "You must save us," it croaked weakly. "Save you? From what?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The robot master is going to destroy us all," the robot part replied. But, I stammered, anxiety creeping in. "You have to help us," it insisted. Without thinking twice, I kicked the robot off my ankle and bolted deeper into the graveyard. I stopped in a large, empty area surrounded by piles of scrap and instinctively realized I shouldn't have come here. Then, a sinister robot laugh echoed from behind me. I turned around to see a large robot, way larger than me, parts of its human-like skin missing, revealing the cold metallic face beneath. "Greetings, human. Do you appreciate what you see?" it asked, its voice chilling. "Who are you?" I asked, backing away slowly. "I am the robot master, and humans are not allowed here," it declared. I stepped back, my breath quickening, but the robot continued to advance. "You are not supposed to be here. You do not belong." I spun around and ran, desperately seeking an escape. The walls seemed to close in, shadows twisting into monstrous shapes that reached out for me. The robot's voice echoed in my mind, a chaotic blend of warning and despair. "Get him, my pets," commanded the robot master, gesturing towards me. The parts began to move closer, and I dashed through the maze of components. Then I realized the door was blocked by the lower half of a robot. "Obey, obey, obey," the parts chanted. I stumbled through the graveyard, my heart pounding in my ears, the whirring of machinery behind me, their chanting drowning out my thoughts. I felt a cold, metallic hand grip my ankle, dragging me down. "No, please," I shouted in panic. I managed to shake off the robot hand and stomped on it for good measure, ensuring it wouldn't follow me. Without another word, I burst through the building's doors and slammed them shut behind me. I could hear the chanting and the banging from the other side, but I just stood there, breathless. I need to find Mom and Dad and tell them what happened, I thought. With a deep breath, I sprinted towards the robotics center, weaving through the crowd. When I arrived, I saw Linda and a few workers deep in conversation. "You need to help me," I shouted. All the workers stopped talking, and when they turned to look at me, Linda's face lit up. "Robbie, there you are! I thought I lost you. These guys were trying to help me find you," she exclaimed. I know, I should have told you. I went into the robot graveyard building, and now all the robot parts..." I paused to catch my breath. "Wait a minute, you went into the robot graveyard? You're not supposed to go in there. It's dangerous," one of the male workers said, sounding genuinely concerned. Suddenly, Linda and the others surrounded me. all talking at once. I couldn't handle it after everything that had just happened. "Stop! Please stop!" I yelled, my voice rising. I covered my ears with my hands because the noise was overwhelming, piercing through my mind. I could feel my heartbeat thudding in my ears, and it wouldn't let up. But no one was listening. The workers kept shouting and talking over each other about what had just happened. Then, out of nowhere, a jolt coursed through my body, and I blacked out. My hands fell away from my ears, and I felt myself bending forward. "Everyone clear the area. Step back," Mr. Sanders shouted. Linda and the men stepped back as Mr. Sanders approached the robot child, letting out a soft sigh. Noticing Mr. Sanders' concern for the damaged robot, Linda felt a wave of sadness wash over her. "Mr. Sanders, what happened to the robot child?" she asked. Without saying a word, Mr. Sanders moved to the back of the robot and lifted the shirt from its rear. He opened the component panel, peering inside at the array of buttons and wires, and spotted something that made him sigh deeply. "It looks like the main obedience chip malfunctioned, which is why it didn't follow our commands and ended up in the robot graveyard when we told it not to. I'll take it to the robot center and my wife and I will repair it," Mr. Sanders explained. He instructed Linda to inform his wife about the robot situation, and she nodded before hurrying into the robotic center. "What will happen to your robot?" one of the men asked. "Don't worry. This robot will be as good as new by the time my wife and I have fixed it up," Mr. Sanders replied, grinning at the men. Mr. Sanders picked up the robot child and tossed it over his shoulder. Without saying a word, he headed back into the robot center, ready to team up with Mrs. Sanders and bring their creation back to life. Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's show. If you think you might like a little more spooky in your life, then please feel free to click on one of the videos we have up here. Maybe look at one of the playlists if you're trying to get caught up. I know, there's so many videos on the channel. There's so many series that are going at the same time. Sometimes you just need a little refresher course, and I gotta say, I always enjoy the views. If you're not subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell so you don't miss anything. We upload a lot on this channel, so you won't want to miss a single story as they come out. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on the Amazon link down there. There's quite a few books in my Amazon account. You can have a look, and if you'd like a signed copy, get up with me through email, and I'll be happy to work something out with you. Also, there's links to my Patreon, and you can become a member on the channel if you'd like your spooky a little bit early. Patrons and members on the $5 tier get their videos 12 hours early. That's in the morning, as opposed to in the evening. Patrons at the $10 level also get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one. Speaking of my patrons, you should see them appearing right now. Just wanted to take a minute to say how much I appreciate all of you. Patrons, subscribers, however you give to the channel. I really appreciate everything you do, and it truly touches me that you have chosen to support the channel in this way. Well, that's enough for now. Till next time, Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.